Hello, everybody, and welcome to Powerful Stuff, your favorite weekly podcast to get inspired, to connect to yourself, to hear from other people's transformation, and to learn how you can do it too so you stay more connected to yourself and to the people, the community around you. And you also do so while not taking yourself so seriously, because as I like to say, play is power. I'm your host, Meredith Baker, leadership coach, founder and CEO of Powerful Stuff, and Taylor Swift and John Mayer aficionado. Just throwing these little fun facts from time to time. But today is really for all of you who have an idea or a dream and you just see it so clearly and you want to take it from this idea or this dream or this thought into reality. And maybe you're not sure how. And maybe the road seems really like fraught with obstacles or the finish line seems impossibly far away. And what we're going to do today is we're going to talk to one of my absolute best friends, Savannah Aubinoe, who last year told me, I have this idea for this beautiful conscious co-working space and people are going to display their art there and friends of ours are going to gather there and facilitators are going to come from all different parts of the world who, we can learn from and be inspired by. And I remember seeing like the first pitch deck about Moss in Venice. And lo and behold, a year and a half later, I am a member at Moss. I just hosted a Powerful Stuff event there last night. And I am just like the most proud friend seeing Savannah take this from idea to reality. And so I'm so excited to dive into the whole process with you today, Savannah, and give everyone a little insight on how they can literally make their dreams tangible things.
Oh, thank you so much. Thanks for having me. I mentioned this to you before, but I've been a huge fan of yours, your podcast, your program. Our friendship has been such a huge push in this direction and is a catalyst for Moss. And I think so much of our community is too. And it's an honor to be here. So thank you for having me.
Oh my gosh, thank you for being here. And so I would love to just like start by sharing like how you and I met because I feel like it was so in the folds of community. Like it was on a 70-person camping trip to
Yep.
Zion.
Yep.
And I was like, who is this amazing woman? And can you like kind of just share, that was right when you moved to LA, like how are you feeling at that time? What did you think your time in LA would evolve into?
Yeah.
Because
I think that,
yeah.
and we've touched based on this like multiple times, but honestly, that time, because it was during a pandemic, it was like the real world was on hold and we created a utopia.
Yeah.
We created a utopia of how we spent our time and how we organized our time and how we organized each other to thrive and have fun and stay active and healthy within a pandemic. And so it's really quite fascinating when you think about it, how our community formed, how our friendship formed, because I hear a lot of horror stories about how people lived during the pandemic and, how they were quite isolated. I especially feel for the people that were going to college during that time and, they had to go remote and just how that affected mental health. And we sort of pivoted in the opposite direction.
Totally.
So that was incredible. And you also started more of that during that time, which brought us closer because you used our like joint office space right on Brooks to start facilitating your first events. And again, you were like, okay, the world's telling us to go one way, but we're gonna go the other.
Yeah. Yeah. Like, yeah, those were some of our very first like IRL events that we led for more of that, which now has evolved into Powerful Stuff. And so it's so funny actually now that you bring it up that like our very first acoustic storytelling, which now was like a first iteration of Powerful Stuff Live, where people would play songs, share the story behind the songs, and we'd hear from the audience what the songs inspired in them, was at like a space that your company like let us use at the time. That's so funny. Oh my God, how full circle. And can you kind of like share for the listener, like with Moss, I know there's like a lot of backstory of your journey leading up to it. Like, how did you create the initial space to like even have that concept, and what kind of headspace were you exiting as you were coming into this visioning dream space of like what you wanted to create next? Because I know it was like a big time of change for you.
Yeah, I think, well, the most important thing is that this was not a linear journey whatsoever.
Yeah.
And I think it's really important to just keep in mind if you're struggling with, you know, I think there's a lot of people out there that really want to build something and they have the skill set and they have the resources, but maybe like the idea is not solidified yet, or it's the opposite. It's like they have this idea, but they don't know how to, you know, build the foundation with the resources. And I think that from that time to before that time, it was all these puzzle pieces that were being put into place for what exists now. And if you feel like your path is not linear, there's not one blueprint for a business model. I think there's not one blueprint for success. And it really led to like the ikigai of what exists as Moss today.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not being linear. That's so real. And like when you were kind of thinking about it, like, did it come to you like instantly, or was it like something that had been like gnawing at you for years, but you finally kind of in that transition space of transitioning from, you know, your other like professional career, had the space to finally like sit and be like, oh, what if?
Yeah. Great question. So I think when we were in the building blocks of our previous company, I really saw like the secret sauce of when our team was thriving the most. And at the time, I didn't realize it, but you really have to attribute a lot of that feeling and that growth and that intimacy towards a space. And we had many different phases where we went from like a 500 square foot back house on Rose Avenue to like a 3,500 square foot space to a 12,000 square foot space, right?
Which was all like within like what, 1 or 2 years?
It was between the span of like 2020 and 2023.
Which is so crazy because it was just like crazy growth in healthcare during the time of
Crazy
the
growth and
pandemic.
But it's like there's these things that you can latch on to that can apply to different businesses. And one of the things that I just paid attention to was like the beauty and the implications of space, how it's chosen, how it's used, how natural light affects your workday compared to like, you know, being sort of cut off from that. And also like the size of teams and how that affected collaboration. And so I applied that concept when we were looking for different community spaces. But post-pandemonium, you know, there was like this really awkward period I actually like experienced at Burning Man in 2022.
Yeah.
When people wanted to be together in the same space and they really wanted to interact, but there was like this sort of like invisible wall between people where they're like, I want to be close to you, but I have hesitations, right? So it was like apps weren't really doing it in terms of wanting to connect. People had this desperate need to be off apps. So it was like, okay, I'm going to take what my experience was in the past for like this optimal sized community space and make sure that there's an open floor plan. And I worked with an incredible designer, Sakura Heffron, who we started planting the seeds of, you know, what does it mean to have organic materials in a space and natural light. And that's essentially, those were the building blocks of how we started to source the location that we have now.
Oh my gosh. Wow. So powerful. And yeah, when you first, I remember like when we were talking and you're like first brought up the idea of Moss and then like you showed me the pitch deck, like, did you have any, I think so many people wonder, you know, when they have those ideas, like, is this something that I should invest in? Is this something that could work out? Like, how did you have any of those doubts in the early days? And if you did, like, what were some of the, how did you recommit to your vision of like creating Moss? Because I think some of those times can be like the most fragile times when we're like incubating our idea. Yeah. And also hearing like all of the people around us saying like, oh, are you sure you want to do that? Totally. Or that's going to be a lot of work.
Totally.
Yeah.
I think, okay, so a couple things.
Yeah.
After I left that company, obviously there was a period where I was pretty burnt out and I was doing consulting. So like I was doing fine for myself and I enjoyed helping people kind of automate their businesses, coaches in particular. And there was a moment that I just really missed the hustle. I think that's just how I am. And like
Yeah.
if I'm not moving, I get restless and I just started drawing the blueprint of things. But more importantly, the community was such a huge building block because they were letting me know. I was taking notes on my phone of people's qualms with different coffee shops, whether, they're uncomfortable seating or there wasn't enough outlets or they felt excluded from a place. I think that like there was a transition in time where exclusivity was not really what people were craving. And um, and then it just became this really intuitive thing where it's like, okay, I felt underwhelmed visiting different co-working spaces around the country. And I think that term has become really generic. So it was a mix of feedback that I heard. And then, of course, this wellness component that was so necessary during that time, that's so ridiculously expensive. And every single person, you never hear someone who goes into a sauna and feels worse after
Right.
or tries an ice bath and says, I regret doing that.
Never.
Never.
Yeah.
And we are in a place that I think really sets the standard for incorporating wellness practices into your daily life. And especially, I learned that from our community. And so it was pretty divine timing. And there's great support along the way
Yeah.
to make it happen.
Oh my gosh, what a different time. It was like right when, yeah, you had kind of come out the other side, were consulting after the other company. And was it because like you had gotten to see so much community in kind of like our pandemic times and also kind of in, that initial company that you were working at where you're like, I really want to build a community space, or like, I know the thing that I want to do is bring people together.
Yeah.
And that was like always the desire and the
I remember
goal.
talking to you and Spencer about it at our kitchen table. And I
Yeah.
was like, what do you guys think? I talked to my partner about it at the time and I just like sat down on my living room floor and just like I had a whiteboard and I just exalted this idea and went to New York and looked at all these spaces and was really pretty underwhelmed and of what existed. And we're so lucky to be in a place where the zoning is a lot more flexible in Los Angeles. But there were so many different components that made it so attainable. And ultimately, it was the team that came together to be like, we believe in this, we support this, we need this.
How did you find those people? Because, yeah, I feel like sometimes it's like you said, it's like having like that extra, those people around us, like really gives our ideas legs. And it's so important when we are in the infancy stages of a company to have like people who see the vision versus who are going to doubt it. So like, how did you find that dream team when you were?
Well, first, Lex Drucker, I worked with her at my previous company and we were on a hike. We were on Los Leones, and that was when she decided that she wanted to move here a couple years ago. And she was a huge proponent of our medical operations team, being an RN and, really going through the ringer during the pandemic. But I had seen her growth and her efficiency and also just established like deep trust with her at our previous company. And she also is now going like a more holistic health direction and she's studying acupuncture.
So
and
cool.
The second I asked her, she was like, I'm so in. And really just helping to build all of the SOPs for all of the departments and refining. I mean, and then a huge inspiration too is what we can do to tweak spaces, which is what Sakura taught me. She taught me what wabi-sabi meant.
Can you explain what wabi-sabi means for the listener?
Yes. Wabi-sabi is perfection in the imperfect, But on a deeper level, it's a culture that stems from the way people decorate a room to how they dress to their way of life to how they eat. And it stems from Japan. So, of course, naturally, in order to build a wabi-sabi inspired place, you have to go to the source. And that's what I had to do. So,
You went with your mom.
took my mom.
Oh, that's so sweet.
We went to Japan and I was so beyond inspired, beyond. So much so that we built a 5-star hospitality deck based on that. And the idea is, okay, we don't grow up in this culture where this is so innate, like down to the way that we fold a napkin or,
Yeah.
Light Palo Santo every single time someone enters a room, or remove our shoes, or tie a curtain, or heat coffee.
Yeah.
But what if we did? What if we started to practice that? And what if that became habit? And then how does that make someone feel when they enter and exit a space?
Yeah. And I will say, from being a member of Moss, I feel like the hospitality is like on point, and so many like details and also just like feminine touches that make the space feel so warm and inviting.
Thank you.
And when you were like going to Japan and getting all of this inspiration, something that just like blows my mind, which I actually like talked to you a little bit about on our runs, but how at the time of like building Moss, you're like, raising money, building a team, like managing so many different contractors coming into the space, talking to the designer, like how are you just like managing all of those balls in the air, like at the time, where you had enough money and support and team to press go on like finding a space, getting a space, but like those months leading up to like the launch, it's just like crazy to me how it all came together. I didn't doubt you, but I was just like, holy shit. Like there's so many balls in the air. Like the sauna's being brought in. Like you have the designers here.
Well, just to circle back to like the team that helped us build it, right? Is there was so when you work really close knit with people for a really long time, like that was ultimately the foundation. Our podcast team are multifaceted. They helped us build the space. Our designer worked previously at our old company, and we established a really efficient relationship together. Same with the first investor. Great friend of mine, always worked well together. And I think again, it's like once you have people that know what their responsibilities are and are always willing to improve that process, really the foundation, and it was very important for me that the foundation was strong.
Mm-hmm.
And our team, our member base, and our event base was really rooted in those values and that culture. And yeah, I think that once that's strong, a lot can stem from it.
Wow. And yeah, I'm hearing like really like making sure that the people around you feel like 100% in alignment and in integrity with, and that share the same like culture and values as you. And I really feel like you've done such an phenomenal job of cultivating like the most amazing team at Moss. And as such, like the members and the people that come into this space are all just like such warm vibes and everything. What do you think your like internal like beliefs that did you have to like look at, rewire, or re-strengthen, or what like were any kind of voices coming up at the time of building Moss, as with anything that you're birthing to life, like roadblocks happen or obstacles happen, and how did you like navigate those to continue to push through?
Oh my God. Like I feel like if someone's building a business or building anything and they tell you that there's no challenge, like first of all, they're lying. No, I'm just kidding. If you don't have any of that, congratulations. But if it wasn't for if it's not for those roadblocks and if it's not for those doubts, then like, what are you working through? And I think that it's actually quite conducive to the end result, because it makes you a stronger person, it makes you a stronger leader, and it makes you more confident that this too shall pass, and you just have to put the pieces in place for it to work. I kind of view like every day like a game of Tetris, and there's pieces that are still on the table at the end of the day, and like those pieces aren't going to go away, but it might just take like a week or two to figure out like how they fit in.
So not being like a perfectionist, but kind of allowing the patience of
Totally.
fitting those in eventually.
And I spoke about this in a previous podcast, but the space itself has taught me really to let go. And it's kind of become an organism in itself. Whereas like at one point, and I think like we're definitely both this way,
Yeah.
where it's like you have a vision, you want to execute on that vision, you have an expectation, you have a standard, and of course, more often than not, things don't go according to plan.
Yeah.
And it's really been, it's a part of the process has been able to be at full acceptance and peace with that.
Yeah. How do you feel like you got there? Or when do you feel like, did you feel like were there any points where you were finding more resistance to it and then something happened and you just like let go? Or how long did you feel like
in
it
the
took to
process
get there?
building up to it, or in the process since it's been created?
I think like both, you
Yeah.
know, because I feel like each is its own kind of era of
Totally.
Moss. Yeah.
Well, I think because it was such a transition period before leading up to it, I definitely, I mean, shout out to like my people in LA, you know, like what an incredible soundboard. My family also, you, like when I did, I felt a need to really push myself and take a full jump off the cliff. And I think once you do that, you don't really look behind you, you look forward. And the upgrade program really helped me with that.
Oh, thank you. I'm so honored that you were a part of it.
Yeah.
And yeah, so special. I feel like it was actually in one of our one-on-ones where you first shared with me, like, I have this idea for this space and I want to call it Moss. And that's why, yeah, I love what you said too of like, okay, I'm making the step forward. And like, it's like the point of no return versus like looking back. Did I make the right decision? And I feel like that actually, from the outside looking in, at you like gave you so much momentum and energy around it and like unshakable conviction. Like if like I feel like even if anyone were to come up to your face and tell you like I don't know if you can do this, you'd just be like, that's like, go ahead and think that, you know. I felt like I just like when I thought of you and Moss, like from the very first time you told me in the upgrade, like,
is that when I told you?
Yeah, you told me at like one of our one-on-ones. I think it was at Rivian.
I was like developing the trust to tell you probably.
Yeah. And then I saw like a pitch deck like a few weeks
Yes,
later.
yes, I remember that.
Yeah, that's so crazy. And it's like now it's like here, but what I think about you from like doing that work on yourself in the upgrade and in your other ways and giving yourself the time and space to, like you said, recover from burnout. I feel like once like the Moss idea like stuck, there was just like unshakable conviction that like this is happening and like people can think whatever they want, which I think as a founder it's so important to have that vision because there's going to be so many like doubters or people who couldn't imagine it themselves who are going to like project that onto you, and you were just like a shield, which was so cool to see.
Thank you. And I think just to be completely transparent is like that's not something that comes really easily. And if you're listening to this and you know you're having a difficult time getting to that point, give yourself time to get to that point and give yourself time to reflect on what it is that matters to you. And also finding support of people that have that unshakable conviction as well, because I just like to call that like just being fuck yes about something. And if you ever, whether it's like in partnership or in a business or in your personal life, if you're with people that don't have that level of conviction, it's probably not worth going into business with.
Yeah.
And, you know, I hope that everyone finds that about something that they deeply care about in life, because it's such an incredible feeling. And it's such an incredible feeling to share that with someone when you're like, oh no, I'm willing to take the sacrifices to make this come to life because it means that much to me.
1,000%. Yeah, I love that you touch on that. And it's like, if you want to found something or you're having the idea and you're not sure, it's like continuing to give it space. And I love what you said of like, why does this matter to me? Is this something that that I love so much that I'm willing to forego like social engagements or other things? Because one of the things that I was just talking about on a previous podcast with my old company was I didn't fully like, love it. I loved like some aspects of it. And as such, as the founder, you're like your own cheerleader, the cheerleader to your investors, to your team, to the clients or the people that you're trying to attract. So if you're not fully like, I fucking live and breathe this and need to bring this into the world, it's going to be like pushing a boulder up a hill, which is how it felt for me.
Yeah. And I mean, that's incredible that you figured that out before it was like in its, like after its launch phase.
Yeah.
You knew, and that was a really intuitive decision. And now you are truly living your own ikigai.
Yeah.
And you give so much of yourself to the projects, but you believe in it wholeheartedly. And like, there's never been a time where I've been like, Meredith shouldn't be doing what she's doing.
Oh, thanks.
Right?
Yeah.
And I think the world needs more of that.
Oh, yeah, more of that. Oh, I love that so much.
No pun intended.
No pun intended. Can you explain to, in case people aren't as like familiar, like what did you discover when you kind of walked through your ikigai, like after, leaving the other company? Because also before that, you were a photojournalist, right?
Yeah.
And traveling to all different parts of the world. So how did your ikigai, in what ways did it remain the same? In what ways did it change through these different chapters leading up to Moss?
I remember when I love my dad so much, but he sat me down when I was like a kid, and he was like, or I guess I was like 14, and I just got back from Costa Rica for the first time. My mom told me that if I learned Spanish, then I could travel. And it was kind of like this deal that we made together. So I did. I started taking like rigorous Spanish classes, and I went to help on this volunteer program in Punta Arenas, Costa Rica, when I was 14. I came back and I didn't understand like why we had hot water, and just like a lot. They took away our cell phones on the trip, and just a lot came into fruition at the time. And my dad sat me down and he was like, most of the world is bad. Like, make sure that you take care of yourself and you don't really sacrifice for others and all these things. And I just turned to him and I was like, nope, I don't believe that. I think most of the world is good. So I had always worked in nonprofit and like service jobs, like pretty much ever since I was like 15 on. And it was up until I was 27 and I really saw the gray area in the nonprofit world. I ran a regional office of one of the largest human rights nonprofits and in Northern California, and then saw also like this contrast in my illusion of healthcare and what it actually became. But so all of these experiences, conversations, meetings with people, types of teams that you run, I saw many different management styles. I saw many different realities, and it also helped to solidify like my operational knowledge and how to refine that. But photography was really the gateway into the nonprofit world because of my passion for people's stories and portraiture. And so when I originally wanted to move to LA to open up a photo studio, this really comes full circle.
Totally.
And I had a creative agency from my, I was getting my master's in photography at Academy of Art. And there was incredible photographers who couldn't get into galleries because they were international. So I created a creative agency called Moss Collective, and it was an acronym for Masters of Self-Sufficiency.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Back in the day.
Oh
my
God,
this
was like
so
2019.
Funny.
So it was like right before I moved to LA. I wanted to help them get into galleries as sort of like a middleman because, I don't know, I just like figured out business pretty quickly. And then the gallery shut down.
Oh.
And Pavin's the one who was like, he called me and he was like, Sav, like, what are you doing in San Francisco? Like, he tried to get me to move out here for 2 years.
Shout out Pavan if you're listening. We love you and Alex.
Love you. See you guys soon.
See you soon. Excited for the wedding. That's so cool. I did not know that Moss was already like
it was in my back
pocket.
I still have the URL, and it just really came full circle. I think God works in really mysterious ways, and he was kind of like, he was telling me something at the time, and you had to go through the rock tumbler to figure out what it is he was trying to say.
Isn't that so funny when we get like little winks like years or early on, but it doesn't even make sense until we look at it years later. And then it seems like it was so clear, but at the time it was like right under our noses.
It's kind of like when you're reading a book. Like, I went on this road trip in Australia, and I read The Power of Now, and then I went to this cafe, and this girl handed me New Earth and was like, I think you'd like this. And I was like, who are you? Like, I just finished this book. This is crazy.
Two Eckhart Tolle classics.
And then I told my sister to read the same thing, and it didn't have any impact on her because it wasn't the right time.
1,000%.
And sometimes it's all about timing and how divine that is.
That's so real. Yeah, you and I were talking about that a few weeks ago of like you can lead a horse to water.
Yeah.
We can't. Yeah. And similarly, like with ourselves, it's like when we're ready, we'll be ready. But until then, you can have all the signs in the world and it might not happen. That's so cool that it was called Moss, though, because I feel like Moss not just is the name for Moss, but there's like moss on the walls. And it's like, I didn't know Moss was also an acronym. And then now you have gallery art on the walls too.
Yes. Exactly.
That's so freaking cool. Okay, so a few more questions about the like building stage, and then we'll get into like the launch and what it is now. But during that building stage, while you had this, conviction, you were surrounding yourself with a good team. You were doing this like inner work on yourself. While things were like up in the air, like, would you get this lease for this place, or the construction was taking longer than possible, how would you kind of return to your inner trust or your inner vision around it while so many things were up in the air? Like, what kept you rooted and grounded during that time of like, things hadn't fully materialized and they were all kind of like happening at once?
It's funny because I talk with Roger sometimes about when you're building a physical space. Shout out Roger Wong.
Roger, if you're listening as
love
well,
you.
We love you. Now it'll be a test to see like who listened, if anyone writes back, because they were grateful for their shout out.
That's so funny. Yeah. That's a great little scavenger hunt to go on to get someone to listen to the whole thing.
I know. Hey, we shout you out.
But we always talk about the difference and the importance of working in versus on the business, vice versa. What that looks like in a physical space, what that looks like in a tech startup.
Can you explain?
So working in the business is, getting your hands dirty, sometimes doing physical labor, being in the physical space, having interactions with people, and then working on the business is partnerships, growth plans, what expansion looks like, the things that can't be seen but can be felt sometimes. And I think that the more automated Moss becomes, the more I can be working on instead of in. But the importance is, it's really equally important to me because people are the most important thing.
Yeah.
Our members are so incredible, and like it's become such an ecosystem already that it's something that you just want to be a part of because you genuinely are really invested in this community. And that's a need, but it's also like a deep want. It's just a want to be there all the time. So much so that like our team, like Emily, Emma, Maddie, Elise, Lex, Brogan, Joe, Ani, like all these people will just be hanging out in the space afterwards. And I think that in the early days, being in the business was even more important because it was like, Sakura and I were there every single day with the contractor.
Every little detail.
Every detail we would help them with. If there was something that was missed, we would remind them. And like we always worked on this ebb and flow of how much communication is strategically beneficial communication with a contractor and how much is like micromanaging. And we definitely understood the importance of that. But we had these goals to open it up on February 26th for our launch party to be April 26th. And because of our ability and
when did you get the lease? Like, from when did you get the lease to start working on the construction? Like,
Oh, we got the lease to start working on the construction 5 months before.
which is
So,
such a crazy quick
and
turnaround.
and I said to myself, like, and we talked to the broker about it. We talked to the landlords. If we needed to hit this date, we needed to do every single thing that we could to hit that date, and we did.
Woo! I love that.
Yeah.
I remember when you showed it to me when it was like under construction. You're like, it's opening next week.
Oh my God, there was a guy who came in with his backpack. He was like one of our first members, Ryan, and he came and he was ready to work. And we were sitting on like a cellophane couch with plastic wrap, and I was like, dude, like, we're not going to be open until 2 weeks. And he was like, I'm ready to go. Like, sign me up. And it was, that was also really cool. Is there was just like such a hype squad during the construction days.
Totally. Well, and because I feel like for as community oriented as Venice is, I was kind of shocked like the last few years that there weren't more, co-working spaces or collective hangout spaces. And the ones that were available, were like super full or like not as community centric, feeling more of a like corporate vibe in some of them. And like it was just shocking to me that there weren't like more cozy hangout spaces. I feel like people were like thirsty for it. Which Moss really like scratched that itch for me personally.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. But yeah, kind of going back to like those days pre-launch, like can you just give the listener, just out of curiosity, like a quick overview of like what what you did to the space when you got it and like just some cool things like kind of outside of our transformational arc, but just like some cool things that you love that you did with the space because it used to be, for everyone listening, the old Winston House, which was like a music venue, and we've had Corey, the founder, on our More of That podcast, where they had like Dua Lipa and Billie Eilish and Ed Sheeran, Vance Joy play. It was like this cool music venue, and then Savannah gave it a whole new life.
I think that was part of the reason that it was so incredible to be in that space because of the history of it. And you walk in and it was part frat house, part art gallery in Brooklyn, part treehouse.
Yeah.
And, after it was Winston House, probably like 6-7 years ago, and they transformed into their new space. There's a couple offices. Like there's one guy that came from the Dole family, I believe, to open up an office there. And so they kept the original artwork on the walls. So there was a lot of history. And the place was like disheveled and really dusty when we came in. But I really didn't know that much of the history the first time that I entered with the broker. His name is Evan. He's great.
Shout out Evan. If you're listening.
And but we walked through the space and you could just feel the energy.
Yeah.
So really what I like to say is that we helped to preserve it. And, the major changes that we made were to the staircase and to the wellness room upstairs. We literally built it out, and the founders used to live upstairs, and we knocked down a wall. But I mean, one of my favorite things that we did is when you walk up the stairs, you go to the right, there was this there is this like floral room to the left, and it was covered in floral wallpaper. And there was a paint sign that said "lower than your leaf blower." Okay. There was all these like interesting, like quirky
little sides,
inside jokes that were like etched into the space. Long story short, we built that into our podcast room. We put 6 different Shoshugi-ban sound panels in there. Ryder England, who's a artist from San Diego, was doing a tour one day. And he helped to build the wood panel in the back, and he painted it for us. So that was like our first art piece.
Cool.
Maddie Ireland provided Moroccan rugs from Rome Living. And basically it was just such a collaborative effort. So we just did one room after the next.
And you have that
Yeah.
thing from Egypt, right? On the hanging, or is it Egypt on the wall in the like
Oh,
upstairs living room?
yes. Yeah. So I believe that's from Turkey.
Oh, from Turkey.
And it was an old piece of equipment that would be used to plow fields with mules. So it was like a manual, and it was imported here
That's
at
so
Berber Imports.
cool. Yeah. And for people, I mean, if you're listening, you need to go check out Moss because, yeah, it has a beautiful downstairs area, upstairs living room, like third level meditation room, sauna, cold plunge, the necessities, the podcast room, the conference room. But it's just like the level of detail is so unparalleled. And like I said, it's just like taking like your initial vision of like, I'm doing this conscious co-working space and there's going to be artists here to like it coming to life. Was that like surreal for you, like the week of launch where you're like, holy shit, I did it? Or you were just like, yeah, of course.
I mean, the most special thing was my family came out. I think like my dad is building a really huge project back home in Maryland. My mom spends like a lot of the year in Mexico. Um, my sister's in Oregon, and a lot of times she travels around the country performing shows. So to have, and my stepmom as well, to have everyone there was so surreal. And then my three best friends since I was in elementary school came out. And just the support of the community. It was like when you're looking up, making a speech, and you just see every single person in the room that you love. I was like, it really felt, I know we like use the word utopia and sanctuary and all these things, but it was just one of the best feelings in my life.
Yeah.
And even to have you perform and Nikki and Reslo and my
Such an
sister.
honor. Yeah, the whole community gang, we
Yeah,
were all there.
it was great. And so this past week at Tech Week, we exceeded the size of the launch party. So we had like almost 400 people in the space.
No way. So that
Yeah,
was that bigger than yeah, it was bigger than the launch party
bigger
by
than the
like a
launch
hundred
party.
or something, right?
Still had Lincoln Jesser play.
Yeah, Lincoln, he was on
Yeah,
Powerful Stuff or this yesterday about
sweet.
combining healing and house, all of the fam. I know
Such an
Spencer.
incredible concept.
I know. Spencer and I were talking about it though. It's so cool because you did exactly what you were going to say. You did like keeping with like the wabi sabi element, keeping with having artists displayed on the wall, keeping with like being an amazing place for friends to host events and also other facilitators that you get connected to. Yeah. And when we were at the launch party, I just remember telling Spencer, I'm like, it's like Savannah's wedding, like in the
Yeah.
sense of like at our weddings, like all the people from all different parts of our life come
Yeah.
and get to celebrate us. And I'm like, it's so
Really.
rare that other times in our life that happens as well. But it was like your parents were there, like you said, your high school friends, like every single person came to like celebrate you and enjoy and see this like creation that you have birthed into life. And there was like not a dry tear in the audience when you were giving your speech and Alex and Pavan surprised you
It's crazy. I
from
I really went into a state of shock, and like Maddie gave me that book, and I still have to like sit her down, and I'm like, she's like, "Did you hate the book?" Because I was in so much shock. And I was like, "No, like I just had never experienced my heart being that full in my life.
and it's like sitting with it and
I couldn't
savoring it.
receive anymore." And
Yeah.
that's already hard for me to do.
Yeah.
So like for them to give me this like public gift where like hundreds of people signed the book, I was just like, all right, like enough. I can't. And then I would walk past it in my apartment and just like check it out. And then finally I could open it like a week later, and that's when I reached out to everybody, and I was just floored. And it's also just inspiration for the next one. Like if we open two, if we open three, to pass that baton to another like incredible group of people that can do it in their communities and spread the ripple effects elsewhere. Because
Yeah.
ultimately, like it's so much more than me, and our team has really helped to plant the seeds for that expansive community in what
Yeah.
Moss currently is right now.
Right. No, it comes so much down to the foundational like company culture, like you were saying, and from like day zero and starting with yourself, and then like those initial hires and everything. And then that really like is the magnetism and attracts like all the people that end up coming into Moss. Um, Two kind of questions on like learnings, like what what have you, I guess, well, I always have this habit on powerful stuff of like asking like two or three questions at once. So I'll try to just do it one by one and let you answer each. What did you learn from your past experience at your past company that you applied to Moss? Like in just your own personal musings, and how did like you implement them?
Yeah.
And kind of what you were like, whether it was things that you thought, oh, I definitely like want to do it this way, or this was like a learning for me and I'm going to do it this other way. And in kind of like thinking about building out that company culture.
Yeah, I think like the first thing that comes to my mind is humility,
Mm-hmm.
the importance of knowing when you don't know the way, or when you make a mistake, or when someone can do something better than you, and like understanding what your strengths are, what your strengths are not, and putting the right people in place for that, and just consistently grounding yourself to lead, and really just staying grounded in order to make decisions, and also sometimes taking time to make decisions, and the importance of not being impulsive.
Yeah, that's such a big one. Allowing things to sit, like you were saying with the Tetris, like letting it be okay if some things sit,
Totally.
trusting in like the answer coming, and like you said, trusting in like, yeah, patience and humility, which are so big.
Yeah, and I think another one is trusting the intuition.
Yes.
And like this is like that's a really extensive conversation that we can have at another time, but I think a lot of times society teaches you to repress a feeling, whether that's in school or in your workplace or in the environment that you grow up in. People are made to feel that like the way that they feel is whether it's unimportant or it shouldn't be voiced or whatever that is. And I just try to provide a platform where that's okay at Moss, and listening to that in terms of the types of people that we work with and partnerships and long-term bigger decisions. I think
Yeah.
it's just really important that it feels good, and I think it's important to also touch base with the team to make sure that everyone's consistently on the same page in that way.
Yeah. And I love the intuition piece because I feel like as women, like our emotions are our superpowers and they're our compass. And like listening to our emotions versus like suppressing them or pushing through them, they hold so much wisdom in them of like what to heal, what to look at, what to pay attention to.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of what ends up strengthening our intuition and like allowing ourselves to be guided by that, and to like, of course, take opinions, like listen to people, but not be rocked or fully swayed by opinions, and kind of like continuing to like trust our vision.
Sometimes the plants talk to you too.
Yeah, sometimes the plants talk to you too.
They
That's
teach me so much.
you need to get or I need to show you my friend Joe's plant wave where you clip it onto plants and it makes music from the plant based on like
Cool.
their like feedback. It's really cool.
That's incredible. I
I've,
think there was just like a performance on that where a mushroom is an actual amplifier. They had like a concert in LA recently.
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I'll have to show it to you. He was at our wedding. I also forgot to mention in the intro, like totally unrelated to this part of the conversation, but Savannah was officiated my wedding with Spencer.
Segue.
Yeah, segue circling back. Also cool, another fruition of sorts. But yeah,
Wait, I just have to add.
Yeah, please.
I constantly get a I paid for a certificate to get ordained online.
Oh.
And they always send me these updates like congratulating me that I was ordained a year ago,
Never
2 years ago.
So if anyone here who's listening wants an official officiator, Savannah, it's one of her many.
Even if I have no
talents.
relationship with you at all, I will ordain your wedding.
Yeah. Consider it. ordained.
We can do it at Moss
Yeah.
as well.
Oh my God, that would be beautiful. The bride, would you see the bride walking down the stairs and it being downstairs, or the bride walking up the stairs? Probably down the stairs, right?
You're probably down the stairs
And then they get married where the stage is.
next to the tree. Yeah. Alper's building us a stage.
Oh, perfect.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, great. Well, yeah, we'll circle back
Thank
in a
you.
month if anyone wants to get married then. We'll provide a special powerful stuff discount code. Okay, so I love those for I love those for pre-launch musings. Really powerful. And it's so funny as a founder, and I didn't ever experience this per se because I shut my company down before we launched. But from what I've heard from other founders, it's like you spend all this time, right? It's kind of like you get to the mile 26.2 of the finish line of the marathon after like you've raised the money, you've built the thing, it's launched, and then it's like a whole other marathon starts of like, now we need to grow it, now we need to get customers.
It's
now
like an orchestra.
Yeah. And so what have you learned in the 6 months of already like being launched, and Moss being out there, and like you said, having to surrender some element of control because there is time.
Don't do it. Never do it. Never start.
Perfect.
Never start, never win. No, I think what I've learned is I learn every single day. I mean, I think that, well, also, I'm just a really big believer in instilling really good habits for yourself. What are the things that you're doing every single day that allow you to be the optimized version of yourself so that when you're showing up for your members and for your team, like you're proud of that conversation and you're setting a good example for them. One of the things I didn't touch base on in your previous question was, coming from a place of burnout, and I would like to come up with like new terminology for what that was, because when you allow yourself to get really run down and there's habits that are not instilled, then it ultimately is a reflection on your company, right? The health of your company. And so I think that I really believe in balance with our team. So that's something that I'm so innately aware of. And I try not to really get involved in like our team's personal life and having a balance there. But sometimes like you can just get kind of an inkling and you're like, all right, like what are the things that I can do to help provide more balance in your life?
Yep.
And, but also just, you learn about people, you learn about different wants and needs in the community, you learn about how to amplify people's voices. And I think that I've also learned that Moss has kind of become this incubator for businesses, for brands, for people that are just starting out, and really a support system. So if there's things that people don't want to publicly talk about in our group chat, then what are the ways that we can be more of service to, help you in your job transition, or just sort of really like build out this member experience department. And it's pretty incredible when it becomes something that really is this segue between a job and your personal life.
Yeah. So many like friends or members, and you've like worked with so many of the people that currently work at Moss in the past. And I love what you say about like we need to make sure, kind of like the famous airplane analogy, put the oxygen mask on ourselves first before we can put it on others. And the health of us is reflected in the health of the business in the long run. And so what have been some of the things that you do to like replenish and restore yourself? Because at Moss, you, especially at the launch, I like felt like whenever I was there, I was seeing you giving like 3 or 4 tours, like just within the time I was there, seeing so many people, so many different energies. It's like, how have you been keeping yourself centered and having experienced burnout before, making sure that you don't get to that place again?
Totally. I think for each person, it's different. And I've touched base on this before, but really making sure that your habits are strong. I try to make sure that I get like at least 6 to 8 hours of sleep each night. I have an animal. I have Shiva. So I dedicate my mornings to her and deep meditation, grounding. So like going to the beach. I need to do exercise every single day. I like to dedicate at least one day a week to like my own personal social interactions, and I try to not bring my phone. And I just recently got an AI virtual assistant that's been incredibly helpful. And I think that um, the better and more automated our processes are, the more efficient our team can run. And that's my goal for this next quarter.
I love
Yeah.
that. I'm honored that I've gotten to be on some of those once a week friend hangs that we've gotten the time to do that in our weekly ritual hot yoga.
And one of the other things that Meredith and I do is sometimes we have sauna sessions or contrast therapy sessions at Moss. And it's really incredible to just, have that at your fingertips and
Totally.
to be able to share it.
Yeah, when in doubt, sweat it out. And yeah, on that note, I just want to say so grateful. Like right as Moz was opening, that I got to have host like the upgrade women there, like before it was even open, and have like a little meditation and share of all of the women in the upgrade from different cohorts, like around the tree in the meditation room. Just like such nice,
That was awesome.
like beautiful spaces, like with that just create like beautiful conversations. That's yeah, all of those are so good. And I think it's like kind of what you were saying with the slowness of decisions, like allowing ourselves space in the mornings or some point in our day to actually be slow and not to be like running around. Because I kind of was saying this for coaching, but I feel like it's true for any company. Like for coaching, I always say like I am client zero. So it's like the women that I want, like the shift that I want them to experience after the upgrade, or any coaching client after working with me one-on-one. It's like if I'm not taking the time to do that myself, like that's out of alignment, and that's not going to like magnetize the right
Totally.
client. So it's like actually not selfish or not non-productive to like take time to go get a massage or to like have a slower morning, because if I like bring that frenetic energy into how I'm showing up on social or like with clients, like that's not going to give me the clients I want.
1,000,000%.
Yeah.
And it gets to a point that like, I mean, even today, right?
Mm-hmm.
I had this weird headache when I woke up. I rarely have headaches. I'm tapping into like, why is this headache here? Sometimes it's because of the things that you're procrastinating doing, and you're like, all right, I need to complete those before I feel great. But knowing your body really well, I was like, all right, I need to do cardio and I need to like lift quickly. So before I came here, I literally did like a HIIT workout, drove to my gym, did a HIIT workout, came and like snapped back into my
Zone.
happy place, yeah, into my zone. And I think it's important to just know what that means for you.
Yeah.
Knowing like what foods, what people, what activities, which hikes.
Like drain you versus energize you.
Yeah, and just reminding yourself that like we come from source, we will leave this earth going back into source. And Tommy Sobel said something at one of our conscious co-working workshops just about how we're not put onto this planet to work. We are so multifaceted, and sometimes it's so easy to never get off the hamster wheel. And then what? It's ultimately going to be a disservice to others and yourself. And I've for sure been a victim of that in my life.
Yeah.
And I think it's possible to run a business, to have balance, to be happy, to find love. I think it's all possible. It's just ultimately up to us and how we manage our time.
Yeah. I love that so much. I on a kind of like tactical note, I just want to circle back. I didn't know that you got an AI assistant. That's so fun.
Yeah.
So what kind of things does your AI assistant help you with?
Yeah,
You're like the
so
queen of automation. I'm so inspired.
I love it. Actually, Spencer just texted me this automation that Notion has now, and it you basically can voice record an SOP and it will build an SOP for you. I sent it
Oh,
to
that's
Lex
so nice.
because it's like everything that we do is typed into a document. Like I'm talking every single department, every single membership protocol, all of our contracts,
All the run of shows for different events.
everything.
Yeah, and that's what I
our
love about
event
it.
feedback.
After each powerful stuff event we do, you're like, okay, so what can we improve? Like that was great, but and what can we do to continue to make it
Yeah.
amazing? Which I love about you, and it's like a good reminder to keep to celebrate what is and to keep growing and improving. But all of that to say, that's cool. Okay.
And then the AI assistant really helps you with scheduling and reminders, and you can voice to it something that you need to do, and
Remind
it's sort
you.
of just like there's certain days where you don't need it, right?
Yeah.
You don't technically need it. Does it help you get a lot more accomplished as like one person having octopus arms? For sure.
Yeah.
And it's an organizational tool, and if you know me, you know that that's really helpful.
Yeah. I love that because I have like a running task list on my iPhone.
Yeah.
I'll be like, call so and so back, like get more of this thing. Like,
Yeah, and
and it
does
feels
it give
kind
you
of
notifications?
no,
Yeah.
but I feel like doing the AI assistant would be powerful. It would be so
I
good.
like the accountability of automation.
Yeah.
I like the notifications. I like the alarms that are set. And I like that there's something that feels really good. Actually, a friend, Michael Savitas, taught me this back in the day. He has a whiteboard right next to his bed,
Yeah.
and he has personal checklist and professional checklist. And every single thing must be checked off before he goes to bed that night.
Well,
And like there's something that instant gratification and that satisfaction
of
of
like
checking off a task.
check.
Oh
I'm
my
gonna
God, it feels so good.
I have like 200 on my phone. So like when I get to Peru for my 4 month, I'm gonna like try to go through them all and just be like, ah, I did it. But yeah,
I'll hold you accountable,
thanks.
maybe.
Okay,
I'll try.
watch this space. Everyone circle back. A few last like little rapid fire questions before we wrap up for the listeners. But what's been something really cool or unique or intentional that you've done to get everyone who works within Moss on the same page, like in terms of a company culture perspective?
Yeah.
Like something that you love doing together or like slowing down so everyone does feel like really dropped in and heart centered when you're growing together, when you're giving each other feedback.
That's a great question. I think company dinners are important.
Mm,
I think eating together, right? We've done some version of meditation ceremonies. We did a Moss after dark at one point. We actually tonight we're doing we have a partnership with Berries, and we're doing a
group sweat.
complimentary group sweat. We just established a partnership with Shefa Yoga. So it's just, to me, again, like circling back to that balance. Um, it's important to me that our team feels good. And also just, I think that having everyone on a growth trajectory, we have a very, very growth mindset team.
Yeah.
We have a very growth mindset membership base. I want every single person to be feeling better when they leave than when they enter Moss. And obviously, I have no control of that, but I can control, how the place smells and just how the rooms are utilized, how it's cleaned, what the vibe is. And the better your staff feel, the better the vibe is in the space. And it's really all a part of the wheel. So
And you have people like sage the space each night, right? Like reset the energy or something like that.
yeah, but it's ultimately, it's like they want to
Yeah.
because they care about it.
Yeah.
And so when people feel cared for,
They
they feel
care
cared for,
more.
they pass it on.
Whoa. When people feel cared for, they care more. Whoa. Um,
Yep.
I love that.
No, it's like a little family, and it's also cool to have these origins of building something in the past with people, and or just being good friends with people, and how that establishes this root that it's like when we grow, you grow. When you grow, we grow.
Yeah, this collective like
Yeah.
trust of like I want what's best for you and I know you want what's best for the collective and vice versa.
And with that being said, what's super cool and like one of my favorite components of Moss is we have all these new like wellness startups that are joining. And for example, there's this guy, Ben Crippen, who has a company called Soft, and he runs this activation that's a body pillow that's like this vibrational body pillow.
Mm-hmm.
You put on a mask, you put on a headset, you're lying down in our meditation room, and it's supposed to really help your
Nervous
REM sleep that night. And it's been such a success that there's other companies that are coming in, and whether they're doing an event, like Source.io just did an event where you put your fingerprint on the back of a phone. It measures your HRV, and it tells you, if you have a very active energy level that day, if that should be a rest day, if it's a moderate energy level day. So it's sort of like this mix between Kajabi and Aura Ring.
Oh, cool.
So what we're seeing in this area is all these up and coming wellness brands. And if it's on point with Moss, then I love being able to provide the space for them to showcase it to our members, kind of like beta testing.
Yeah, I love that. It is like a little incubator. I tried Ben's thing. It was so relaxing. I did it after the sauna.
Nice.
So powerful.
That's a great place to do it.
It's such a good place to do it. Okay, a few kind of like rapid fire questions, and then we'll tie this arc in for the listeners. And yeah, what have been how did you get your first, like the first people attracted to Moss, like first members, and how have you found that it's like grown since?
Yeah, I think the very first member was Joe Bhakti, who is
you were about to say Joe Biden. Joe Bhakti. Okay, different Joe.
The very first member was Joe Biden.
You guys heard it here first.
He's actually in our
meditation room.
Yeah, he's taking an ice bath.
Yeah. Doing some contrast therapy.
He's cooling off. I'm gonna stop there before I get ahead of myself with Joe.
Okay, so it was Joe Bhakti.
Love Joe. Love both of the Joes.
Yeah.
Deeply inspired by Joe. Joe Bhakti was my first boss in LA.
Whoa,
and he ran an early stage cancer detection startup. And I was talking to him on the balcony of Moss, and he was just emphasizing sort of how his passions and his visions were shifting. We actually just finished a podcast together, and he had this vision for Pioneerland, which is essentially like a Rajneesh, like from the Netflix series with Osho, like Wild Wild Country, but new and improved style commune in Malibu, where he has, it's like people eat together, they grow their own crops, there's like a children's education portion. I mean, it's a vision for a new world, and he's such an innovative thinker. And it was really inspiring to have him come in when we were just in the build phase, and he was like, I fully support this.
Wow.
And I think that, I mean, even you and Eric being so supportive so early on with, such a powerful voice in the community, like, I will never forget that. And I think that to see how it's just grown and it's continuously this collective culture, it just gives me a lot of faith for how it can help other communities. And that's my next goal to figure out.
Oh my gosh. Well, that'll be a good segue into the next question, but I just want to double click retweet on that and say that, yeah, it's been so cool to see you have the idea like a year and a half ago, see it come to life, see the launch party, meet your sister and your parents and other parts of your world. See not only members of our community join, but then meet so many other people at Moss. Like, I met Margot in the sauna, who was in this last upgrade, and because of DeAndre, who I met at Moss, who's a member, like he introduced me to Skylar, who's now in the upgrade too. And like Aliki and I have filmed like Venice Girlies clips, our fun little Venice Girlies Instagram clips at Moss. Like I've hosted Best Morning Ever and Powerful Stuff at Moss. We've gotten to host like some private dinners at Moss for like
Ben
friends.
taught for you for
then meeting Ben Smith, who leads breathwork at Moss, like did a breathwork collab at Best Morning Ever. So it's just been such a cool, like even for me personally, like wheelhouse of like getting to meet different people and community expansion in different ways. And I'm someone who already feels blessed that I have already such a strong foundation of different communities, but like Moss was like a whole new level and new collaborations to be made and new things to be had. And so it's been really cool to see. And also I'm just so impressed with like your level of like social battery too. Like see like going to like all so many of the Moss events and just giving so many tours and still making time to like ground and center and show up for your friends. It's amazing. And I just see so much, yeah, like of the work that you've done in yourself the last few years, like really just getting to live your brand, which is so cool to witness.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. I think that I can always be better. Sometimes I feel bad, like I can't have, Sunday phone conversations with my family, and I can't remember the last time I've well, this weekend. But just, yeah, I think that that's something that I always try to work on balancing is just like professional and personal life. But I also believe in when you're getting off the runway, as long as you have, balance for yourself, like sometimes it's okay to make a little bit of sacrifice. And um, God, it lights me up so much. It makes
Yeah.
me so happy. If there's people that feel inspired and happy, I mean, that's what all of this is for.
Yeah.
It's really what all of it is for. I mean, when people come to like a powerful stuff event like last night and they make a friend, or I was in the podcast room recently with a new member who is creating this app to help children get off their cell phones.
Whoa,
And
so
they're
needed. I'm like,
positively rewarded to get off their phones. And then as he's walking out, he's telling me that he's in the running for the Nobel Peace Prize when he was in the private office. And it jump started this idea that like we have a podcast room, like I mean, it's not about me. I need to be feeding them the questions, but like I want this podcast to be focused on the members and their incredible stories and their, outlandish experiences that don't follow the status quo and that don't follow the blueprint and that need to be told. And also the things that people don't necessarily talk about, be that, for example, I had a podcast about someone who wanted to leave their startup, right? I had a podcast about someone who wanted to make this complete career change and really talk about like the struggles. And that's not necessarily what you hear or see on highlight reels.
yeah.
So that's, I really believe that authenticity is a part of the brand and always will be.
Yeah. And it's so cool because it's like I can tell it so comes from the heart. You care so deeply about your friends, your loved ones, and then also like the members of Moss and like showcasing their stories and giving people a platform to expand and grow. And some people, you know, I've seen grow so much in their own professional career just through having an opportunity to like host different things at Moss and having Moss as their first like voice to like share to the larger public.
Yeah.
And so it's super cool in that way, like not having or like it's almost like the Wizard of Oz or like being behind the scenes. Like, but you're like so effortlessly able to do both, but like you're also kind of like creating this platform for others to share their gifts while making everyone feel like so comfortable and seen by you. So it's truly a superpower.
Oh,
Yeah. Okay, really quickly, before we go into kind of our ending arc, I have two last little rapid fire questions. I also infamously am like the last thing I'll say, and then it's like five more questions. But what has been like two or three of like your just like favorite events you've hosted or like things that have happened at Moss, just for funsies,
favorite events.
or just like, whoa, this is so cool that this thing is happening here.
Yeah, okay. We had this one event called Shanakoi, and this guy, his name was Gaff, he contacted me, and this is a historical storytelling practice that takes place in Ireland. And it was so innate to the Irish tradition that they, it sort of grew there and it developed a little bit more credibility. And he created this Shanakoi storytelling event, and it came to different parts of the US. And this was one of the first times they came to Los Angeles. And people stood up, and the theme was strangers, and they were, there's probably 70 people in the audience telling these extremely vulnerable stories. I mean, there's a woman who flew in from Guatemala, a couple people that flew in from the East Coast, and I mean everything from like just to think about the ripple effects of the word strangers.
Yeah.
And where that can lead, whether it was the first really intense story about a family member to someone's experience of having a disability and really what that reaction was from like the outside world to that disability, to someone falling in love with a stranger and it, disappearing in a 24-hour period when they were on a trip to Italy. But I mean, it was just such a fascinating way to communicate with people that you don't know about a topic, about people that you don't know. And I even learned just this whole inner world of one of our members who talked about the first time that she moved to New York and the kindness of strangers when her apartment building burnt down. And like these stories just sent chills down your spine, right? So we have stuff like that, but then at the same time, we would do like a fundraising unlocked panel where we had these investors and just a really diverse crowd a couple days later that are coming in, and they're talking about the best way to talk to investors and how to build a pitch deck. And then the investors are coming in and they're doing like these mock pitches downstairs. So that was fundraising unlocked by Jason Yee. And I love the sort of like the diversity between those events. And we did this incredible panel. It was the first panel that I ever spoke on. It was an honor for me to even be invited to it. It was a Femme Prosper Founders panel, and led by Shell Navia,
who's been on Powerful Stuff.
Yeah. And she was, it was co-hosted by Emily Gray, who runs events for Moss, and it was so incredible. And one of my favorite parts about that panel were the questions that people asked towards the end, and just how there were so many people that came and really just like looked up to the topic of conversation, and be it like the books that got us to the places that we were, and also just talking about the really like unseen struggles and decision-making process that goes into, being a mom and running a business. And
right.
So there's just been such a diverse palette of events, and even down to like Aliki's comedy show, right?
Yeah.
One of the first months that we opened to have like 80 people cracking up in Moss. I had no idea how to run a comedy show. I had no idea how to set up a comedy show. And here's this person on stage who's just so comfortable in the spotlight and really, truly transformed the space. And that's where I saw, okay, based on the time of day, based on the performer, based on the topic, we switched the stage, we changed the lighting.
Yeah.
We cater the audience. And I guess I'll top it off with this really unique experience that happened like 2 weeks ago, where we curated the audience for it. It was Emily's meditation on a Friday. And we brought in 2 collaborators, Holy Cacao and Cowboy Colostrum. And Grant, who's a good friend, came to lead the ceremony. And you can see him making coffee at Boulevard Coffee sometimes.
Cool.
But he's a great guy, great facilitator, and literally led this like cowboy after meditation movement breath cacao experience. And it was so unique, and it was so much fun, and it was so unplanned. It was so off the cuff. And I love that we can have that type of experience there. So that was really fun.
I love like you said, the diversity of experiences at Moss, and it's truly just like this beautiful canvas that you've created where so many people feel so empowered to like create like different experiences, and people who come feel so safe, like at all the powerful stuff events, people taking off their shoes when they walk in and feeling like grounded. It gives it this homey
Oh,
vibe
totally.
and like super intimate, no matter how many people are there, if it's like 30 or 60. And um, that's the beauty of what you've created, and like the fun element of surrender. Like you created the vision, you did it, you've created the team, and then it's like you almost like, have, stuff that you're still building, but also this like letting it take a life of its own, and who comes into the space, and like the different connections that people make. Undoubtedly, there will be like businesses that come from Moss, babies, marriages, who knows?
Oh my God. I think one of the things I forgot to mention is I think having different events that really push people to the limit. And when we opened, Ben Smith came in through Maddie Stites. And it was this really unique experience where we could now have the resources to intertwine breath work, which is so up and coming in this area, with a cold plunge experience. But to have like this cold plunge coach slash expert to get people under the water for the first time,
Yeah.
and to start their day with that shock and understanding maybe not what it does to the body, but how it feels.
Yeah.
Right. And then that in turn creating these habits for people of like when they come in the morning and kick off the day with a cold plunge and community. It was a really cool way to utilize the wellness room. And I've personally never had a breathwork experience like that. So
Yeah.
that's why it's still going strong.
Still going strong. Ben Smith, what is it on? It's called Thursdays, like
Yeah.
a chill. What is it called? Time well spent.
It's called Morning Reset now.
Oh,
Mm-hmm.
morning reset.
We did it in the evenings, and
That was called Time Well Spent.
it was called Time Well Spent, yeah.
Okay, got it. Morning reset. If anyone's listening and curious to do that with Ben. And then finally, before we wrap up with our arc, like what is your future dream now that you've like birthed Moss? Like what is the next thing that you're excited to like bring to the space, or like your vision or hope for what it becomes? I mean, it's already great. So you can also just be like, I'm just celebrating this right now too.
No, I think like it's hard for me to just be content with what is. I try to be present with everything, and I think I kind of mentioned this earlier, but just automating, like making the current process more efficient. I believe in nailing before scaling.
Oh my God, put that on a bumper sticker as well. Nailing before scaling.
Definitely can't take credit for that statement.
Okay. Not by Savannah.
And, in the great expansion plan, it will happen slowly, but I have an idea of places I would like to open.
Mm-hmm.
And it's partially because of the culture that already exists in those places. And I think it's not necessarily about convincing people how important it is to draw wellness into their life, but it's those that already have that mentality.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where it's like right before it, and then it creates like enough of a critical mass to like invite other people in as well.
More to share on that soon.
Okay, watch this space. We'll do a part 2. And there's so much we could talk about. It's crazy. Okay, so for the listeners, I would say like, what would you say step 1 is if they have that initial dream? Like when you think back to like if you what advice you gave like that Savannah a year and a half ago of like having that initial dream, what would you say for step 1 is for people?
Yeah. You're never going to be fully ready to do anything. But does your life experience create enough conviction and passion for you to plant the first seed? And if the answer is yes, then do it. And if the answer is yes, then find people that are ready to go there with you, because team is everything. And it's like such a passion space for me, even when, maybe I don't necessarily have like a great idea of what every single person is doing in Moss, but I love to be able to talk and to collaborate. And so I think like that collaboration and that advising when you're in a current space or you're about to be is really important. So find people to support you and just plant the first seed.
I love that. And it kind of reminds me what you said earlier in the episode. So it's like, what is the thing that you want to do? And then giving yourself the space to say, like, am I so lit up about this? Like you said, with the conviction, and you beautifully worded it. Like, do I have enough conviction to dedicate myself to this? Is this something I'd be willing to make sacrifices for? Because I like believe it should exist so strongly. It sounds like a step one, and then step two is like finding the team. And maybe even if it's like, for our listeners, depending on what you create, maybe it's not necessarily even like the team that's going to like work alongside you, but maybe it's like your team of support, your friends, the people who you can ideate or mastermind with, even before you like,
Totally
make hires and whatever.
Yes,
that
masterminding was so important. We definitely did that before we opened. And I think like even like on just like a deeply rooted personal level, work through some of the qualms that you have with yourself and the inner doubts that you have with yourself, the inner doubts that you have with others. And if you feel like you need to take a class, if you feel like you need to develop better regimens, before you're offering a lot of output, just make sure that you receive that input.
Yeah, totally. Like taking time to do the inner work. What do I need to clear up in myself? What thought patterns do I not want to bring into the foundation of this? So like you were saying, you can be like a clear, in alignment founder and show up even better for your business and what you want to create. And then, yeah, I would say like, or for like the last two, like when people are kind of in the process of creating it, like what would you say for that, for people to like remain, centered amidst like all the balls in the air before it comes to fruition, but like maybe it's already halfway on its way? What would you say to like that version of you who was like dealing
before the idea happened?
Like after the idea happens, but like imagine kind of where you were in your stage of like construction, well, like the lease, like the designers coming in, like someone who's kind of like, there, but all the things are coming at them at once in whatever that kind of like build phase is for them.
Yeah, again, I think every business is different. So I'm not going to pretend that I have like one blueprint that works for everyone. But I think like understanding the fundamental departments and processes and legwork that needs to be done to lay the foundation, just make sure that's strong. And I've been in spaces where culture kind of diminished over time. And so just being that at the core root of everything, it might seem really nitty gritty for someone to, to like when you think about that, one of our operational processes is like cleanliness and organization and the chairs being spaced out accordingly. And, the coffee jar always being full and the temperature of things being consistent, the refrigerator always being full, but that's what hospitality means, and that's what can set one business apart from the other. So I understood, because I built the principles and values of this business, and everything else is a petal of that.
Yep.
So in my opinion, I think that that's one of the most important first steps to take.
I love that. Yeah. Amazing. And then I'll just add for like the ending step, and correct me if I'm wrong, but what I've heard from you too is like once it does come to life, it's like like acknowledging, celebrating it, kind of like how you had the launch party, really like commemorating it and bringing people into the space. And then B, it sounds like there's an element of surrender, of like allowing it to evolve, allowing other people to come in, host their events, like, and kind of holding the container, like still being that strong leader, but like loosening the grip, seeing what people create, seeing what springs out of that. Would you find that to be true?
It's so empowering to do, and it's become an organism that is really so much greater than self, and was always the intention.
Yeah, and I feel like you are just like that example of, I'll not say the quote correctly, but it's like, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. I feel like when I think of someone who epitomizes like true community and selfless, like just wanting everyone to win and to go as a collective. I think of you, and I thought of you, but even before you built Moss for that.
Thank you.
I feel like within our West Side community in Venice and within your past company and being such a like, like nurturing maternal force to like the other people on the team and just like the vision for that, and then getting to really fully see it like that in something you've gotten to build from the ground up with Moss is like truly so special.
Thank you.
Okay, so
Appreciate
now
that.
we'll just end with like a little like 3-minute meditation. So if you guys want to stick around, and we'll also put it in its own separate episode so you can return to it. But yeah, this is our powerful stuff meditation with Moss Conscious Co-working and Community Space founder Savannah Aubinoe, who's just walked us through a few steps on how to take an idea from, dream into reality through the space of letting it breathe, trusting in our conviction. Can I stand behind this? Can I make sacrifices for this? Is this something I believe in to my core? Thinking about, our company culture from the ground up of like, what beliefs of myself do I need to clean up before I, bring this thing to life? Like, what amazing people can I surround myself with, both as mentors or advisors and also in the, in the initial company hires? And then how can I like, celebrate its launch while still maintaining that attention to detail? And then what elements can I surrender control and let, trust in like the people I've hired, the people I've surrounded myself with to bring the space to life. So with that, we're going to go ahead and just take a deep breath in, exhaling it out. Another deep breath in. And exhale, letting it go. And then third and deepest breath in, holding at the top, and open mouth exhale, release. And imagine all of your thoughts kind of like dust being stirred in a clear glass of water, imagining that the stirring is stopped and the dust is slowly settling down at the bottom of the glass, making your internal vision, your intuition clear. As you feel this clarity go from your head down to your throat, down your heart, down your navel, down your hips, till your whole body, all of your energy centers feel like this clear glass of water, this clean vision. And imagine putting energy and attention toward your navel center, your Manipura chakra, your center of personal power. And asking this jewel of yourself, this internal powerhouse of your essence, asking it, what are a few of the things that make you uniquely you, your unique gifts to the world? All your experiences that you've done, both the good and the hard, and what they've taught you. The things that you love doing, that light you up, that delight your inner child. And the things that you feel so passionate about in the world. And imagine them all coming together in concentric circles, overlapping until you find that one commonality between all of them, combining beautifully, where all parts of you feel seen, expressed, and fully put to use in whatever you're meant to birth into this world. Kind of like, as Savannah mentioned, your ikigai, that beautiful overlap between all your past experiences, what you love doing, what you're delighted to do, what you're passionate about. And as they come together in this concentric circle, imagine them almost like forming a little seed, a golden seed of possibility, of what you're ready to create, what you're ready to plant in this next chapter. And feeling it as you hold it in your hand, in your mind's eye. knowing that you have every possible thing that you need, that inner conviction, that why that you want to do this, to bring to the world, and that excitement to do so. And imagine putting this golden seed in the soil and patting it down. And as you pat it down, feeling it root down into the essence of who you already are, what you're all ready to bring to the world, what you're already ready to bring to the world. And as it roots down, feel it start to peek its head out like the seed is growing, expanding into a beautiful flower. And as it grows into this flower, starting to see and feel visions around it, around this flower, of what's meant to be created, what energy, what new energy it brings into the world, how it not only shifts and empowers your life by birthing it, but the joy, the empowerment, the magic it brings to other people's life, almost like you're seeing it in like little whispers around the flower. And the flower grows taller and taller, like a beautiful sunflower rooting up to the sky almost. As you start to see even more of these scenes or flashes of how it will feel when it comes to life for you, for those around you, for other people it'll touch. And then almost like you're looking in like this like circular mirror in the middle of the flower, like where the sunflower usually, the brown part would be. Just getting to see that version of you who's already done the thing, who's brought the dream to life, who's done it. Just feeling so much pride and conviction as you look at their reflection, noticing their facial expressions, their energy, and just asking them for the perfect next step to bring this idea into this reality. Asking them who already knows that you can do it, what is that perfect next step? Trusting whatever they say, and then taking a deep breath in, exhaling it out, releasing the vision, and then another deep breath in. And exhale to open your eyes, coming back into this space. And then taking whatever came up for you, and what are those things that you're passionate about? How have your past experiences shaped you? And, what are you excited to bring to the world? And writing it all down, like Savannah said in our episode, of like, what is that ikigai for you? And if you want a guide, you can Google image ikigai and kind of be walked through a step-by-step process of how to create yours. And then how does it impact you, and how does it impact those around you to take action on this? As in, what does the world have to gain from you doing this? How are people positively impacted? And then finally, what is that step that you're committing to do this week? Even if it's like the tiniest step, what are you committing to do this week to put energy and momentum and curiosity around this? All of that's to say, thank you, Savannah, so much for being on here and sharing how Moss came to be, and sharing your wisdom and like just all of your incredible insights and stories from like the pregnancy to birth of Moss. And I know it's just the beginning.
Thank you so much for having me. Thanks for being a part of it from the early days. And honestly, if there's anyone who's watching this who has an interest or a dream or a desire and they're trying to bring it to life, I just want you to know that I'm also a resource for you, and I'm rooting for you.
I love that. And where can people find out about Moss if they want to check it out after this episode?
Yes, thank you for asking. So you can find out about our memberships at mossvenice.com. Our IG is and TikTok are mossvenice. And you can email team@mosscollective.co if you have any event inquiries, wellness inquiries, any inquiry.
Yay. I love that. Just ask us anything. It's powerful. If you're in Venice and you haven't checked it out, you absolutely need to. I love seeing people's first reaction when they see it step into Moss. Whoa, this place is beautiful.
Oh,
Even just last night, seeing people who have never been in before is super cool. Okay, love you so much. Thank you for being on the
love you.
podcast. Thanks for officiating my wedding. Thanks for creating such a
Side note, when Meredith comes back to
space.
Brazil, you can see a powerful stuff at Moss.
Yes, exactly. When I'm back, watch this space. It'll be the first one of 2025. Okay, well, love you. And thank you all for listening. I will see you next week for more powerful stuff.
Thank you.
Yay. Hey, you. Thank you for coming on this powerful journey with me. I hope it was as powerful for you as it was for me. And if it was, it would mean the world to me if you rate, review, and subscribe to Powerful Stuff so I can keep bringing you the goods. We can keep going on this transformative journey together. And if there's powerful stuff that you want to share with me, with the Powerful Stuff community, tag us on Instagram at That's Powerful Stuff or The Meredith Baker. And I look forward to seeing you next week for more powerful stuff.